Every founder wants to work with Jules.
Yes.
When you read your bio, you're like, whoa, Midas list investor. He's in these incredible companies like Dropbox and Grammarly and Hims and Slack, and this guy's got to be cutthroat. But you were kind, you were curious. You're like, why aren't you cutthroat and a jerk? There's never been a successful company where it's been a straight up and to the right journey.
Every company has to change its core thesis, which means every company's wrong. You know? My top 10 worst investments. Let me tell you about what happened with Zenefits. Let me tell you what happened with Hopin during the pandemic. It's okay to say, I mess up a bunch too.
Perfection makes people a little bit suspicious.
Yeah.
I had this mantra that I'd always say to myself, which was, if Theo saw the decision his dad made in this scenario, would he be proud of his dad?
Yeah.
I almost get emotional saying that.
Yeah.
And it was so easy. Every decision was so clear.
The only time I'm a jerk in board meetings is when I'm hungry. I'm serious. So it's important, feed your VCs.
Jules.
Yes.
So we were first introduced by Andrew Dudum.
Yeah.
This was in my early on days of venture building. And he said, look, if you got to meet anyone, you got to meet Jules. Every founder wants to work with Jules. And I don't know if you remember this, but we met up. It was supposed to be like a 30-minute walk. And we ended up walking up and down Sanchez and Noe Valley for like an hour and a half.
It was during COVID, right? Because it was early.
That's right.
Yeah, and they closed the street. And
Yes.
Yeah.
We were distanced.
Yes.
We were distanced.
Yeah.
And you were incredible, Jules. You were kind, you were curious. You're kind of the opposite of what I expected, honestly, because when you read your bio, you're like, whoa, Midas list investor. He's in these incredible companies like Dropbox and Grammarly and Hims and Slack, and you're like, this guy's got to be cutthroat. And then, I've been lucky enough to get to know you over the last few years, and one of the things I love is you've since moved now from IVP. I think you're still on a bunch of boards, right? And you're now teaching classes for Berkeley and Stanford. You're focusing on entrepreneurship and venture capital, but the whole thing that I love is you're really focusing on the importance of integrity and being a good person lessons throughout these classes, which I love. And so as I thought about building this podcast, you were literally the first person I thought of. And so I want to start with this. I'm going to read for a second as I was preparing for this.
Sure, yeah.
So there's a study, it was in 1966, by this psychologist, Elliot Aronson. And he was trying to figure out what makes people likable. Is an interesting question. And whether or not competence affected likability. That was his initial thing he was trying to sort out. And so he did this thing that was interesting. He had a bunch of participants listen to someone answer these quiz questions. And the person nailed it, answered every question perfectly. That was one group. And then he tried something different. For the second group, he had them all listen to that same person answer the quiz questions perfectly. And at the ending, the guy who answered the question spills coffee on his lap.
Okay.
And he goes, oh no, I spilled my coffee. And they said, okay, do you like him? And the craziest thing is the participants in the second study liked that person more, which is so interesting. And I guess it turns out that perfection makes people a little bit suspicious, where imperfection makes us relatable, can increase trust, and can make us likable. And so the question, maybe this is a question behind the question for you, and I've actually always wanted to know this, is what makes you approach life in the way you do? Why aren't you cutthroat and a jerk?
Did I spill coffee on myself on the walk? No, I'm trying to think I must have done that. I honestly, I'm not trying to mess up. I'm not trying to spill coffee on myself but I think I realized that it's more fun when you're yourself. And we all have unique personalities. We all have unique things about us. I've got a very unusual background. I grew up with two parents who were social workers and did marriage and family counseling. And so when I told them I was going to go, I first did investment banking, which I'm not proud of. When I told them I was going to do investment banking, I think they literally felt like I had joined the opposite
the dark side.
Yes, I was a rebel going over to the empire saying this is where I'm going to make my career.
Yeah.
And I even though I worked in finance in these industries, I tried to bring a little bit of what my values are, who I was as a person.
Really cool.
And that actually got easier as I got more senior, but I don't think about it. I just try to feel we're on this world to connect with other people, and if I can do that in a small way with an entrepreneur, with another venture capitalist, with someone I meet, a student in a class, I feel like I've done my job.
I love that. What a unique background. I'd be so curious, like how many of the most successful investors had social workers? So you said something, I wanted to click on it if you're okay, which was, you said it got a little easier as I got more senior.
Yeah.
I think that's so true. But can you talk about that a little bit, and then like how did you ease into it? What is it? What are the implications of that, I guess?
Yeah. No, so I mean, it's a funny story. When I went to Yale undergrad and I got in off the wait list. I was
Nice.
from this college town in Eugene, Oregon, and I had no idea what the East Coast was like. And so I remember having to go to Yale, and I got this note that like the first day there was going to be I don't know if it was a dinner or a dance or was something, but I needed a sport coat for it. And I didn't own a sport coat.
Oh
I
my
didn't own
gosh.
anything close. I don't even know how to collar shirt. Maybe I had like a polo shirt. And so I had to go. I went to a garage sale in Eugene, Oregon. And I bought a sport coat that did not fit. It was like, it went over my hands. It was but I was like, this qualifies as a sport coat. I can go to this dinner.
Wow.
And I remember like putting that on and feeling in college like I was kind of playing a part. I'm playing, I can no longer be the kid from Oregon. I have to be the sport coat wearing
Scholar,
whatever.
yeah.
And I'm with these other kids who went to prep schools and other things like that. And I'm trying to fit in. I felt that way, not just a little bit at Yale, but also just in some of my jobs. When you do investment banking, I have to act a certain way. I have to, watch the movie Wall Street and whatever, Gordon Gekko or Charlie Sheen's character is, it's like, that's how we are in finance.
Yeah.
And it never felt good to me. But you kind of play that part, and then you sort of realize this is a lot of stress. I was having headaches. I was questioning like, what am I doing with my life?
Wow.
And ultimately, it led me to switch out of investment banking and realize, well, what do I like? I like being in these rooms with these entrepreneurs. Like, they're really fun. They're doing something that's so passionate, and I wish I was confident like yourself to actually like be an entrepreneur, but I was like, at least I'll get closer to them and I'll try to be with them and hang with them. And that was my goal. So I threw away the sport coat. I don't wear sport coats anymore. And I just try to be myself.
God, that is so interesting. What an interesting thing too. I mean, first of all, I love that. I think you know this. I'm from Nebraska, and I also felt the same way when I got into Penn. I also was like, how do you keep up?
Yeah.
Because it's like these kids that went to like Andover and these prep schools on the East Coast, this was the circuit they knew.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden you're coming in, how do I don't know what any of this stuff means.
They have 4 sport coats.
Yeah. Like where is Nantucket? How do you spell that? You don't know.
Still have never been.
Yeah. Same. Yeah. Totally. Wow. Yeah. But also, I mean, I guess what an interesting thing that as you got to know yourself more, you realized that the core of yourself, what was true to yourself, was you didn't want to play those roles. You wanted to be yourself.
Yeah.
Okay. So you mentioned one thing, which was how you loved entrepreneurs and you loved being with entrepreneurs. So there's I'm going to mention a couple of studies because I was super excited to chat with you about this stuff.
Let's get all academic.
Yeah. Well, and so look, you've listened to, I don't know, probably thousands of pitches at this point from founders.
Yeah.
And they're high stakes, and founders are nervous, and like they're probably especially nervous when they meet you because you're like Jules, you're like the guy. And I think there can be this thing where they feel like they have to come across like perfect. Every answer, it's got to be perfect. They got to be buttoned up.
Yeah.
And there's this interesting study on authority by this guy named Robert Cialdini. I hope I said that right. Where basically people are more likely to trust and follow someone who's perceived as an expert, but it increases when it's paired with honesty about their limitations.
Yeah.
So another thing is like, there's a study that shows when salespeople, when one of the first things they do in the sales pitch is they say, hey, just so you know, here's the limitations of my software.
Sure.
Higher chance of converting.
Totally.
And so I guess it's a question, have you ever, in these thousands of pitches, as I'm sure you've had, have you ever seen a founder increase their credibility by leading with a weakness or like, hey, here's where we're struggling in a pitch?
Yeah. I mean, the first thing that jumps to my mind is I went into, there was a lot, I really was excited about Slack. This is back in like 2014 and 15, and the company had just taken off. And I mistakenly passed on like an early round, but I'd never really met Stewart. And so I finally get a meeting with Stewart Butterfield, and I walk in to his office, and I walk into his like this big conference room, and I didn't really know much about him. I knew he was the founder of Flickr, and so he's like very famous person, and I'm nervous.
You're nervous.
Oh man, I'm always nervous. Like especially, these entrepreneurs.
Side no one gets to see of you.
No, I am not confident. So I'm walking in and I'm excited to meet him. And he's got on his screen, it's not the presentation for Slack's fundraising. It's a picture of this dress that this woman wore at a wedding. And this is like 10 years ago. It was this meme that had gone on around like, is the dress blue or gold?
Oh, I remember that. Yeah. And so it was definitely gold.
It was okay. So it's just the picture of the dress, and he walks in and he's like, is it blue or gold? And that was his opening thing. It wasn't like I just spent time just sitting with him going, wait, it's blue. No, it's actually gold. Okay. And we were kind of doing, but it allowed us to sort of connect as just like we're two people trying to figure out this silly thing that was like, it was the day. So I always remember the day I met Stewart was whenever the blue gold dress was happening. But even just the way he presented Slack, and Slack did not start as Slack. It started as a failed gaming company.
Yeah, called like a tiny spec.
And I forgot that. I mean, and so they actually were using this tool internally, but I just remember like, even just how Stewart talked about the evolution of Slack, I was like, this is a really nice person who's like being honest about what's going on in his life and his world. And his co-founder Cal walks in and he's wearing like shorts and flip-flops and and I'm just like, I like these guys. And so I think when entrepreneurs do that, it does build trust.
Yeah.
I always want entrepreneurs who are confident about their business and excited about how big it can become. Like, I don't want to hear an entrepreneur who's saying, well, we're actually, I don't
That's a good point. We don't know about the TAM,
or if I could sell for, this price, I would take it, So I want people confident, but I also want people to be like, I'm human. This is my best guess at how we're going to be a huge company, but we're going to mess up and, I'm going to figure out how to do this. So,
God.
Yeah.
That one, such a badass story, obviously.
Yeah.
But two, man, what if, like, I really hope, my dream is that there's like some founder who hears this discussion and is like, oh, really? Like, I can do that. And as a result, it makes him more investable versus less. I think there's like this weird concept about, trying to be too perfect sometimes. And like, so I guess I'll take it all the way.
Yeah.
Have you ever seen the inverse where someone's like, every answer, I have everything figured out, where like, you're kind of like, it almost erodes trust. You feel like they're trying to hide something or.
Yeah. Well, I think the people that frustrate me the most are the people who don't admit like they've never made a mistake in their life. And I know, like, I don't want to get all political, but like our president never made a mistake in his entire life. He's never done anything wrong.
Right.
There's entrepreneurs who are, they miss the quarter by 50% and tell you that was exactly what they planned. And somehow, and they're not, no, the numbers say you missed like 50%, and it's not their fault, it's someone else's, or and it's just like that we all mess up, right?
Yeah.
We all mess up. And so like, I do want someone who's willing to call out when things go wrong.
Totally.
But here's my plan going forward. And so, and you can also tell, by the way, whenever an entrepreneur that I meet, is bullshitting you can tell with the answer. And
really?
Because
what are some of the tells?
I usually they just are talking way too long. So if you ask them,
you
ask them about like, well, isn't your product, doesn't that other competitor do that same feature, or can't they do it faster? And they're like huge, and it just is like. And you're kind of like, wow, you explained that like for 5 minutes.
Down the issue.
So I usually just talking too much.
That's really interesting.
Yeah. I also love using like silence as a tool to kind of see like people tend to fill space, as do I. But
totally.
But entrepreneurs, I love it when they're like, I don't know that. Let me get back to you. Like, why do our margins go down last quarter? Let me check on that. I'll get back to you. That's fine.
That is
fine.
so great. So. God, I love that. I mean, what a powerful takeaway. I mean, because look, you've not only seen a bunch of these companies, you made the call and been really right.
And wrong at the
and
really wrong. Like,
I'm talking about that.
No, but look, actually we should, because like, I do think there's this myth that these venture capitalists are these like amazing pickers, and you're so nice. You're like, oh, you did this and this and this. Like, I had years in venture capital where like, I had bad investment after bad investment. I don't know how I kept I stayed in venture capital, but like so many times we're wrong. And so I think like just bringing that attitude as an investor too, and being like, hey, I may pass on your business and
Yeah.
I'm going to be massively wrong and regret it. And actually, I want that for you. I want to see your success. I don't want to pass on it. I don't want to be right on it. But I'm like having that humility of also like, we mess up too. I'm just trying to do the best job I can.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. See, this is exactly the point. This is why I was so excited to chat with you. Is like, you're like, no, let's talk about how it was wrong. It's like, God, that's the whole theme of the thing, you know?
I put this like a funny, I put I know like Bessemer has like the anti-portfolio, which is like, and it's a little bit of this like humble brag of like, well, when we were about to invest in Google and when we were about to invest in like, and so it's like, okay, you're a big deal. You're meeting great companies and you're almost investing in great companies. I don't know what this is called, but I did it's not the anti-portfolio because it's my portfolio. It's like, my top 10 worst investments. And I was teaching a class and I put it on a slide just to say, I know you guys all know me because I did, the ones you talked about.
Yeah.
But like, let me tell you about, what happened with Zenefits. Let me tell you what happened with Hopin during the pandemic. Yeah. Like, these were companies that like we thought were going to be worth 10x our investment, 20x our investment at one time that ended up being worth a ton less. Yeah. Like, why did I make the call? Why did I do that? But like, that's part of what I do too. Yeah. And so it's interesting. And then it was funny. I looked up Mike Moritz, who's one of the greatest investors ever. You can make a top 10 list for him. Like, he invested in pets.com. He invested in a grilled cheese company, the Melt, right? Like, he's the best investor ever. Google, Apple, a bunch of different things. Yeah. Like, also this. So like, we all have these sides of ourselves, and like, it's okay to say, I mess up a bunch too. Yeah. God, I love that. Okay. So this is so, it's like so on brand for you. I was talking about your successes. You're like, we need to talk about my failures. So one thing, and I think this is one of my favorite things about you. There's many things, but like, can you show your watch for a second? Okay, this is a new one. Okay. I broke. The other one broke. Yes, you spent another $20. Yeah. And you pulled up, I think, in like your 2010 Prius. I have a 2010 Prius. We're actually, my son is watching too, so we were like shopping for new cars, but I have a 2019 Tiguan, so Volkswagen. Which is that's very nice. It's a very fancy car. Love that car. Well, I guess it's so this to me kind of goes to the theme of, you're not trying to be this perfect flexer all the time. Like, you're like doing it's like the anti-flex, and I don't even think it's on purpose. But in this world where it feels like sometimes status is like what you're supposed to do, and like you have like I don't even know watch names, like the nice watch or like the whatever it is. I guess I think about this. You have a founder, you're meeting with, and you walk in, and you're telling me you're nervous, which is interesting news, but they're probably very nervous too. Yeah. And there's something about this like disarming thing. You walk in and like, there's just like your Casio. Yeah. Or you're like, hey, where do I park my Prius? And they're like, oh. So I guess that's kind of the question. Like, do you think humility has helped, like in your career, founders with LPs, is that something and I don't think it's intentional, by the way, but how has that, helped? Oh my God, I'm so embarrassed about my cars now. Like, it's not on purpose. I'm lazy. I don't like buying cars very often. And I also don't like, I don't know. I don't like sticking out. I think this is like an interesting, I was reflecting on this podcast and like, what, like, why am I kind of weird like this? But I think like growing up in Oregon, like I was really smart as a kid, but I didn't want to stick out. I didn't want to like show my intelligence. I didn't want to like brag about stuff. So I wanted to be like everyone else. Cause like in our community, that felt like what you're supposed to do. Like you don't stick out. You don't like, and I think that's kind of sad because there's probably like, I wish I had been a little bit more of a confident, like, teenager or 10-year-old or whatever like that. And I just think like I hit a bunch of stuff. And so I don't like sticking out. I don't like, it's really interesting. I don't like doing podcasts. I don't like doing media stuff. I don't like tweeting a lot. And so part of like driving the cars or the Casio watch is like, I don't like sticking out. Wow. And but I'm not, I back to your point about entrepreneurs, like I'm not doing that
It's not like a
for the
strategy.
entrepreneurs. No, what I'm trying to do in every meeting is like, how do I connect with this person?
Yeah.
And so I'll read people's LinkedIn bio. I'll try to get to know them,
great.
and I'll ask a bunch of questions, and I'll try to like figure out what is the thing that we connect on.
Yeah.
It might be something we know, a common interest, the passion for the space, but like in every meeting, like let's connect. And then like even if we have a bad meeting and I don't invest or whatever, like it's like we made a connection.
Totally.
Made it worth it.
I love that. Okay, so this actually you just cued me. So there is a study by this Amy Cuddy, the social psychologist, where basically the moment we meet someone new, we judge them psychologically in two traits, apparently.
Okay.
The first is competence. Like, do they kind of know what they're talking about, which I think is right. But the second thing, I think, is what you just said, and you just know intuitively, which is warmth.
Yeah.
Which is, and I think that the study goes to show that, interestingly enough, people actually forgive slight lacks of competence if they're a little more warm.
Yeah.
And so when you kind of, I don't know, I guess, do you find that this is something people overlook sometimes? Like they don't, because you said you focus on this. I love that. I mean, even what a wonderful thing to, when you look someone up before you meet them, it's a real sign of respect. Like, hey, I'm meeting with you and I care about you and I want to know. And that is warmth, I think.
Yeah.
So have you found other people do that? Is there a lack of it? Like, what's your experience there?
Yeah. I mean, I don't know what other people do. I mean, I think I know some people look up like random things. I think I put in my bio. I used to have my bio like that I was super into like making waffles, and sometimes I'll get these emails where people are like, I love waffles too, and let me tell you all about waffles. And I was like, whoa, you went just like a deep cut. That's like a good let's talk about waffles. And sometimes that scares me because I'm like that's I don't know. I think our marketing department wanted something unique, and I really like making waffles. So I don't know. I just think like we all have different aspects of our personality, and there's overlap with everyone. Like one of the greatest things about venture capital is I've gotten to invest in so many different CEOs, some younger than me, some older than me, men, women, different backgrounds, international, grew up in the US, a bunch of different personality styles, introverts, extroverts. And so I love that like in every CEO I've gotten to invest in, I still share a common connection around something with them. And I try to find that in every person or every person I meet. Venture, especially the CEO investor relationship, is a really personal relationship. And so if you don't like each other, it doesn't matter what the terms are. It doesn't matter the investment's not going to work. And so you have to find that connection to even make things work. And so I'm always looking for that, which doesn't mean I just invest only based on that. I want good numbers, and all that stuff. But like, that's a prerequisite.
God, that's so important. I think a lot of founders, and I have some hard questions coming up.
Okay.
I do think a lot of founders make this mistake of like, they'll kind of like do this blitz raise, like 2 weeks to raise, and like, you got to get to know me and make a decision. And it's like going out and saying, I'm dating people for 2 weeks and then I'm making a call on who I'm going to get married to.
Yeah.
It's like, why?
The Bachelor. Is that The Bachelor?
Have those ever worked? I don't think those relationships ever.
I don't know.
Yeah. And they're just making a point.
Yeah.
So I guess, it does seem like that's an interesting misperception about, I think especially in our small community here, where people try to do this like fast raise because you hear it's a 30-day raise. I'd be willing to bet a lot of those fast raises are deep relationships they've had for years that led to when they had the conversation. Yeah, of course, I'd love to chat.
Yeah.
Okay. So here is...
Give me the hard ones.
Here's the big punching, So is there such a thing as sharing way too much too early? Where you're just like, whoa, and it turns you off entirely?
It's an interesting question. I like when the company's raising money, or like just in
context. yeah. Because like the guy at Starbucks line.
Yes.
More in the context of let's go to the you are an investor making a decision to make an investment or meeting a founder or something.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't like. Well, I was meeting with this entrepreneur, and they there's like a lawsuit they just settled with their co-founder before they were going to raise money, and this person was doing this pitch, and in the pitch they were like talking all about how they had just settled this lawsuit with the co-founder, but the IP is really theirs, and like they're totally fine. And it just was like, whoa, I'm so scared. Like, I am like, can we start with like, what's your product and are you building a big business? And like, that's like meeting 2 or 3. And I don't need to know about the history. So I think like, let's think about like when to share stuff and how relevant it is.
Yeah.
But it doesn't mean you still can't connect with them. It's just like, I'm not going to connect with you by you sharing about, how you had this big founder issue with your last person or whatever.
Yeah.
So,
oh, that's interesting.
yeah.
So I mean, I guess it's this weird thing where, I think an underthread here is in all situations, and this is definitely true, you want to be authentic.
Yeah.
But there's a point where you should be conscious about what you're being authentic about and when is too soon. And that's tricky, perhaps, unless you've like done it a little more.
I'm always trying to think about like, even in venture, like, am I fully myself, like the same way I am with my friends or when I'm, with my family, like, and there's always like sides of ourselves that we're sharing and choosing to share and not choosing to, and I always want to try to share more because I know that like not a lot of people do, and so I think most people should push themselves to share more. I think you'll know if you're sharing too much.
If they start to sweat.
Okay, we're ending the meeting. I didn't know, but yeah, most people. What's been amazing is like, and we were talking about it before we started, like there's tough things that are going on in everybody's lives. And so sometimes just like sharing something that's difficult in your personal life, all of a sudden brings other people out and be like, that's, I'm going through something tough too. Like we can connect around those things. And, we're all human. We're not just business people.
Yes.
We have all these different parts of our personality. And so sometimes bringing forward even the difficult things that might be happening allow you to connect in a way that you couldn't do that already.
Totally. It's so amazing you mentioned that. I was getting lunch with Gary over at Polaris, and it was a bunch of us, and we were just meeting each other. And before we get going, he goes, "Does anyone here know what makes a great conversation?" And we said, "No, what makes a great conversation, Gary?"
Wine. Yeah.
Yeah. Tons of booze.
No.
And he goes, "It's vulnerability."
Yeah.
He goes, if you start a conversation with vulnerability, it opens up and you deepen the connection immediately, where a lot of people start with kind of like a flex. It's like if someone, for example, says, "Yeah, we went to Aspen for ski week and, gosh, the lines were long, but, the place we got was beautiful. It was a little expensive." What do? The moment you hear that, you start thinking, well, how am I going to...
went to this.
Yeah. The runways are short there. Yeah, exactly. Where if someone says, man, I just had a really hard issue with whatever, like a health thing or something happened and I'm really questioning myself or whatever it is, you go, gosh, and you think about the thing that was true for you and you connect as a result.
Yeah.
And I don't know about you, I'm getting the place, and maybe this is like as you get older thing too, I would much prefer to have a meaningful conversation than like a surface level, like, how about them Cubs or whatever it is. So it's such a good point, Jules.
I think for you, like too, it's also like you have the confidence in yourself as an entrepreneur, as an investor, like to be able to say like, I have nothing to prove. Like, I don't need to show off how great I am or how, it's just like, I'm me. I mean, I think like that's a really awesome thing that like, I feel you've gotten to that point, I've gotten to that point, and I think like that's a lucky place to be able to like
that's
not
true.
feel, because the people that are talking about Aspen, there's a part of them that's like there's some insecurity around that, and that's what's driving them to I gotta show this on Instagram or LinkedIn, do a long LinkedIn post about all this stuff. What's motivating that? Well,
gosh, that's such a good point. Yeah, it is. Flexing is a lack of security in oneself. I never thought about it that way. Gosh, that's so true. Yeah, that's really interesting. So you're just talking about how vulnerability can kind of create connection and get people to basically open up sooner. There's this interesting tactic. I was reading about this in this random negotiation book, and it was a way where when salespeople use it, it had a 30% chance of increasing their sales conversions.
Okay.
And they would do a kind of a similar thing, which is, because you're saying that vulnerability is a version of confidence. Confidence. They would start off by saying, hey, if at any time during this sales call, you don't like what I'm saying, just tell me. Feel free to tell me no at any time, and we'll stop the call.
Yeah.
And it removes that neediness. And I think you're right. There's something about when you're going into any conversation, you remove the neediness and you're just confident in yourself. it removes the pressure on the person receiving information. They're not like being solicited on the street by Whole Foods and the guy's like, "Do you care about children in Africa?" You're like, "I do, but I don't like this the way you're asking me about it." You know,
Totally.
you feel like an asshole still, whether you said no. So there's something about that where removing neediness. Perhaps one of the best ways to remove neediness is by doing these things we're talking about. Let it being a person, showing imperfections, just like opening a vulnerability. There's something so interesting about how this is all kind of coming to the same place, you know?
Yeah. No, and I don't know. I would feel so rude like ending a sales call. But if the person was like genuine about that, like, hey, we can stop at any time.
Yeah.
I don't know. I could see that could be interesting. But
so here's a question. Do you ever find, and I've seen this, where, okay, so you have this scenario ton where entrepreneurs, like you're passing an entrepreneur.
Sure.
And it's, especially I think when you're early on in VC, like it's so uncomfortable. It sucks because you know they care about this, they're betting their life on it, and you just know it's not for you. Maybe it's a good company, it's just not for you. And so there's different ways of handling this.
Yeah.
One is what happens often, the ghost.
Okay.
They just don't respond.
Which shocks me because like I just feel like that is like the minimum. Like you got to respond. You know, like I don't know.
Completely agree. It's a total jerk move.
Yeah.
But I wanted to. This is why I'm bringing it up. Is I think there's the other thing that happens which is, and I've seen this too, where someone says, I'm a considerate, I'm a good person. I'm gonna give this founder the reasons why I passed.
Yeah.
And it can be kind of a double-edged sword.
Totally.
Which is, so maybe tell me about your experiences here, because you know what I'm talking about, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, some entrepreneurs, like what I don't want to do is if I'm passing on a company, I don't want to get in an argument.
Debate it.
Right. Because and this is where like it takes two to tango here, but like if I'm passing on an entrepreneur and I'm giving them the reasons and then they want to like refute those reasons and talk about it and all that stuff, like it's not going to switch me into like, oh my goodness, actually I should invest. I was so wrong in that conversation. It's like I've already made the decision. And so actually the best entrepreneur answer is you take the feedback and you just say, thank you, appreciate it. And that's it. You don't actually, you don't even engage on it. And you don't need to be subservient to the VC and say, oh, you're so right about all these things. You can disagree with it.
Yeah.
Sure. Like I'm not right with a lot of my feedback, but just like, thanks,
thanks so much.
Let's stay in touch. And it's great. But one of my favorite stories around passing with entrepreneurs, actually the person who introduced us is Andrew. And I don't know if you know the story, but the first time I met Andrew, he had a different company that was part of Atomic called Ever Album.
Yes.
And it was sort of like Dropbox, but only for photos.
Yeah.
And it was growing really fast. But when we dug into the materials, they had churn that was like 10% a month or something like that. So they were losing, or 15% a month. It was so high. And I remember being like, this, the business is going to lose all its customers in about like
10 months. Yeah.
So like it's in a difficult situation. And I was so excited about Andrew. I invited him into a partner presentation on Monday. But before we'd gotten this churn data, but then I get this churn data on Thursday and I go, oh my goodness, we're not going to be able to invest in this company. I call him and I say, I really, we're not going to be able to invest, but I want to meet with you to walk you through why we came to this conclusion.
Wow.
I was kind of embarrassed. I was embarrassed
that.
Canceling the meeting. And so myself and another person at IVP put together like a 6-page presentation.
No way.
All their numbers. We benchmarked it against a bunch of stuff. And we just sat in the conference room and was like, here's exactly what we noticed and what we saw. And Andrew knew this stuff, but the benchmarking and just how we did it. And we weren't like, like you have a terrible business, you're going to suck forever. But like, we were like, these are the things that if you improve these things would actually make us a lot more excited.
Yeah.
And you were one of my favorite entrepreneurs to ever meet.
Yeah.
So like you are incredible. And Andrew, I've done that with a few CEOs in the past, but Andrew still remembers that. And that was a big reason that he let us invest in Hims and Hers really early, was because of that time we took. And I didn't even think, I wasn't thinking like ahead, maybe the next company. I was just feeling really bad about canceling the meeting, partner presentation. But I do think that like the way he took the feedback, the way we kept the relationship positive, it strengthened things for us. And I think in any conversation, like how do we get stronger after our meeting, even if we're having a difficult conversation?
Yeah.
Like that is the goal.
Okay, so I just want to say for a second, A, I hadn't heard that story.
Okay.
B, that's amazing. I've actually never heard a story like that, where you took the time to put together a presentation
Yeah.
about why you're passing. I mean, and so this is, I think, a thread that I want to pull on together, which is, I think when you're a jerk, it's very myopic. It's very short-term thinking.
Yeah.
And the best, probably most successful people on the planet, but definitely venture, are very long-term minded. Like we were lucky enough to get an amazing investor, and the first board meeting with him was like a totally different type of board meeting than I'd ever had before.
Yeah.
He was like, no. We're thinking this far out and what it looks like.
Yeah.
And there's something to be said about the fact that when you do these things, you take these almost like unnaturally kind acts.
Sure.
And you go in, that then entrepreneur is like, hey, that is the exact person I would love to work with later.
Yeah.
And so now it's so funny because when Andrew introduced us, all I heard was like, this is one of the best guys you're ever going to meet. Now, I'm sure I was part of it.
Yeah.
Is you did stuff like that. I'm sure you've done stuff like that for other entrepreneurs that blew their socks away. And even though it was bad news, you were like, hey, I'm going to spend time with you because I care.
Yeah. No,
Gosh,
Andrew and I had
what a story.
No, we had some, I mean, even when HIMSS was in the early days, like we had to have some tough conversations about the unit economics or things kind of were like, and Andrew so, I mean, he's still and is, I mean, this is the Andrew Love show. Like, you know, he is so incredible. And so I, you know, even the way we were able, and I think it's really a testament to him, like we were able to have tough conversations about difficult things and feel stronger afterwards.
That's wonderful.
I think that's something that everybody should aspire to. And we're never going to connect with everyone in the world. There's plenty of entrepreneurs that that I'm not going to connect with. There's a few that probably hate my guts, I'm sure. So I'm sure I've done things that are totally messed up. But you know, I'm trying to learn and get better in every interaction.
You're the best. So have you ever found, I'm just thinking about like, you know, some of those HIMSS boardroom conversations where you're in the middle of the boardroom and the CEO, because I think board dynamics also, just to go there for a second, they're also really interesting.
Yeah.
Because, you know, you have a lot of CEOs who I believe are CEOs because they don't like being told what to do and they want to run the show. And so the board is an interesting dance depending on a bunch of governance and power dynamics of like, these are kind of all my bosses. And like, to a certain extent, the primary job of the board is to decide if they're going to fire the CEO.
Yeah.
Like if you want to be a little mean about it and distill it down, like, is this the right person governing the ship? So as a result, I could see a universe where once you've made the investment, the CEO is again trying to hide imperfections or like we hit the stuff.
Totally.
Have you ever found, like, what's a story about a time when a founder just like dropped some, hey, this is not working and here's what we're thinking about, and it changed the tenor of the board?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, my favorite CEO that I've worked with that's like this is Shivani Soraya, who's the CEO of a company called Tala, which is a fintech company based in LA. And Tala, when we invested, it was, I think, like $10 million of revenue, and now it's well over 300. So she's built an incredible business, which is incredible when I tell the story like that. But here's what's happened. Like the business has gone through probably 3 or 4 totally near-death experiences. A regulation change. They're in emerging market countries, the Philippines and Kenya and Tanzania. And they had all these things where they had regulation changes. They had COVID happened, and all of a sudden their employees couldn't, or their customers couldn't pay back loans. And the business like stopped lending for a month or two. And we've had all these different competitive issues. And when things have happened, and she's made bets on things that we thought were going to work and then didn't work. And every time she's super honest about like, we tried to do this, it did not work. Here's where we're going now. And that optimism, enthusiasm for like, we've gotten over bad things in the past. And so this time, like when bad things happen to Tala now, I'm like, Shivani's got it. She's got it. She's so good. So I just think like, and it almost like, you know, it's almost become like we've been conditioned to knowing that adversity, that they overcome adversity. That's their biggest strength as a business. And the way to overcome adversity is not to double down on the thing that wasn't working or say, oh, we really didn't make a mistake, this will work eventually. It's say, no, we tried to do this isn't working, we're going to go over here.
I was talking to, do you know Brian O'Malley?
Yeah, oh yeah.
I love Brian. He was talking about how he gives pep talks to entrepreneurs, and he says, look, you're supposed to make mistakes.
Yeah.
Like, you're doing an unnatural act.
Yeah.
Companies aren't supposed to naturally grow this fast or be this ambitious or do these things. And it's something that he's told me, at least, when he tells the entrepreneurs that, they go, oh, yeah, that's right. Actually, maybe it's a good sign that we're making mistakes, or being too ambitious, or taking these bets.
Totally.
I want to put a statement out there and tell me if I'm right or wrong. There's never been a successful company, the ones we read about, where it's been a straight up into the right journey.
Oh yeah, yeah. Almost every company pivots too. Like this is no one's talking. I mean, no, but like every original business model, every original, like it's almost. I think this comes from Andy Ratcliffe, who's another teacher at Stanford. But the every company has to like kind of change its core thesis, and so like which means every company's wrong.
Yeah,
you know?
100% of companies are wrong.
Yeah.
Gosh, think about that. I mean, talk about whatever, the power of imperfection. Like every great company was wrong.
Yeah.
Gosh. Yeah. So here's the danger I want to talk about, which is, let's say you're a founder and you're hearing what you're saying, like, okay, I gotta be a humble founder.
Okay.
Like I gotta do the humble thing.
Yeah.
Is there is there a universe where we run into this risk universe where like every founder's like the humble, stumbly archetype, or like let's say you are a founder hearing this. Is it take away humility? Is it imperfection? Or like what is it? What do you hope they really take away from it?
I hope anyone hearing this takes away just like you can be yourself.
Hell yeah.
Like just be yourself. Be yourself to your employees, be yourself to your customers, be yourself to venture capitalists. Like bring that side of you that makes you unique. Because otherwise, like, anyone, I mean, if you're not bringing yourself, then like find someone who can wear that sport coat better than you, who it fits.
I love the Yale sport coat story. Yeah.
If you're pretending to be something you're not, like, no, wear your own clothes, be your own personality.
Yeah.
And I don't think I think if you try to do it as like an act, it's going to come across inauthentic. Then you're dressing up just in a different costume.
Yeah.
So try your best. And we all like aren't perfect. I think people realize that. I feel like if there was humbleness that needs to adjust in the tech ecosystem, the venture capitalists could kind of increase their humble quotient or whatever it is. Like there's a lot of venture capitalists who are like, I'm the one who did this, or I'm the one who made this company, or it was me all along.
Yeah.
Like that's my big pet peeve in venture is like the entrepreneurs are the ones doing stuff. Like I don't mind if an entrepreneur is a little braggy, a little ego, a little like, we're going to do something huge. I want them to be themselves.
Yeah.
But ultimately, I want them to be confident about their business and go do something great. Like you're only on this earth one time, like do something awesome and brilliant. And if you're a venture capitalist, make sure it's not you doing it. It's them. It's the entrepreneur. So I hope the venture capitalists, feel that way.
I think you definitely are. So I guess here's like we've all had this moment. You're in a board meeting, everything's on fire.
Like in a bad way.
In a bad, yeah, not like fuego.
It's like everyone's like, oh, we're on fire.
It's like hot fire, but no, this is like bad. Yeah,
okay.
Bad fire.
Yeah.
English is really weird, as it turns out. How do you not be a jerk in scenarios like that?
Well, the funny thing is, the only time I'm a jerk in board meetings is when I'm hungry. So I'm serious. I had this one. I'm a jerk. I'm a jerk to my kids when I'm hungry. I'm a jerk. Last night I was hungry, and I was with my daughter, and we had like this argument in the car, and I'm like, it's because I am hungry that we're fighting. And
Gosh, that's so.
And I had one. This is the best advice you're gonna get on this podcast.
Okay.
I had this one company that did board meetings, and they did them from. It's Howard Lerman at Yext, who is now at Rome's.
Yes.
I'm going to call him out here.
I love Howard.
But he did a board meeting from 11 o'clock to 2 o'clock East Coast time in New York and did not give us lunch. And it was terrible. At the start of the board meeting, I was great and nice. And about 1:30, I'm just like, there's no food. And I was like, I don't know if in New York people eat after 2 o'clock.
God, that's
lunchtime on the West Coast.
That's really
okay.
funny.
So it's important. Feed your VCs, but yeah.
That's a big takeaway. That's actually the title of this episode.
Yes, feed your VCs. So the CEOs need to do that. If I've eaten, even if things are bad in the business, as long as we're addressing it and we're talking about it, products on fire. Okay, we all agree. Here's how we're going to fix it.
Here's a plan.
Like this is, we're running out of cash. Okay, what's our plan for raising money?
Yes.
What frustrates me is when I see the fire. We're running out of cash, but we're all of a sudden talking about, this new hire we're going to make, or this new product, or this no, we need money in like 4 months. That should be the whole board meeting.
Yeah.
So like, as long as we're addressing the fire, addressing the problems together, doesn't matter how bad it is, at least we're all in it together. And then even I've had a few companies fail where we've had to shut down the company or difficult things. And it's actually, it's not a great moment, but it's like, it's like you actually have this moment where you're like, hey, we did everything we could. We tried, we battled, we had to do this. This is a sad thing, but like and it's not that bad. It's not that bad. It's like we all, and you actually connect with people around the and I have some of the biggest respect is actually for some of the founders that went through some of the most difficult situations, and they took it to the end and they did it. And then they're off doing something awesome.
Something else. And they love you and they want to do with you. Oh gosh, I had a question. I lost it.
Is it about the food? Okay.
No, it was about food. No, it was so I think like you said something, and I want to just re-say it, which is I think one of the reasons people don't admit imperfection is they're not sure how to deliver the news sometimes. And you said something really important, which was they say, hey, here's the thing that's wrong. And then the next part, which is the most important. Here's the plan for what we're going to do to address it.
Totally.
And I'd even go further and say the ideal formula is, and by the way, if that plan works, this will happen. If that plan doesn't work, here's what I'm going to do.
Sure.
And then here's what will happen.
Sure.
And then you have this wonderful combination of, you've said, here's the problem, I'm admitting my imperfection, but I've thought about it. Here's a plan. If it works, this will work. If it doesn't, here's what I'm going to do. And then what do you think? Like, does that resonate?
That's a good formula.
Okay.
So like you said it the best. And it's actually like, it builds trust. It's like, like we're all seeing the world in the same way. Like I think when there's board conflict, it's mostly because, someone's saying the sky's blue and someone's saying it's,
gold.
Gold. So, exactly. Back to Stewart. So like, maybe that's why he was asking the question. We wanted to, we're on the same page.
Oh, that's interesting. How are we going to debate? Stewart's a genius. Whoa.
Or maybe he just was curious about the picture. But like, I do think that like, as long as we're seeing the same thing, that's important. But if you can say, this is the problem I see. This is what we're going to do. This is how we're going to solve it. I've got this great partner, Steve Herrick at IVP. Whenever he presents an investment, he actually leads with everything that's bad about the investment. He's like, wow. The CEO's last company failed. The company has actually lost its biggest customer. Their margins are like 20% gross margins, which is really low. Like, and all of a sudden you're like, wait, is he pitching a company or is he telling us like why it's like, but then he goes, but they're going after this huge market. AI is powering the business in this exciting way. They just had this happen. And based on all those things, I think we should invest. And as a fellow partner for him, you can't go like, well, what about their margins or what about the Series S company? He said it. He said, he said,
that's a genius technique.
Well, it's like the Eminem, remember like when Eminem does the
that's so he's like, kind of, what else you go say about me?
So like, I think there's a little bit of like, I am who I am.
So you think that Stewart is to venture, like Eminem is to rap. Yes. That's the takeaway. He owes you a thank you.
Watch 8 Mile.
8 Mile Sand Hill. Oh, I love that. Yeah, get ahead of the key objections. I mean, what a great point. No question. Okay. What's one moment in your life or career where definitively not being a jerk really paid off?
Oh man, I hope I'm not a jerk all the time. So like, is there only one moment?
And part of the thinking here, as you think about it, is like, I think, for example, when I first had my son Theo, I remember we'd have these everyone has these, I call them like, it's like the backdoor decision. Where you're in a closed room and you're making a decision, and it's not even clear if anyone's ever going to know about that decision. And I had this mantra that I'd always say to myself, which was, if Theo saw the decision his dad made in this scenario, would he be proud of his dad? I almost get emotional saying that. And it was so easy. Every decision was so clear. This should make Theo proud. And so the reason I asked this is kind of like, let's say you are anywhere in your career, but especially early on, you're in that moment, you're making a decision of how to act, or am I more cutthroat or jerky or whatever. Is there a version of a story like, here's something that'll kind of remind me that ultimately it's not worth it?
I think about my kids too. I mean, I think about wanting them to be proud of me and wanting to lead a good example. And so I love that. What would Theo do?
So, okay, Jill, so you teach at Stanford, you teach at Berkeley. Not everyone can go to those classes. If you do go to those places, how do they attend your class? How do people follow you, find you online? Give me the, like, people loved everything they heard, which no question they are.
I don't write a lot online. I'm on.
And this is gold.
No. Oh man, I can't. We have a marketing department and they send me like email or like whatever snippets to put on LinkedIn or put on. I don't use the site that should not be named anymore. That was one of my original investments, was Twitter. And so
No way.
Yeah.
Oh,
and so I don't like, anyway, it's just kind of sad what the site has become. So I don't use that, but I think I still have a handle somewhere. But I use LinkedIn. But yeah, I love working with students. I'm going to hopefully start teaching an undergrad class at Berkeley. And so for Berkeley undergrads out there, I'm teaching at Haas hopefully in the spring. I'm teaching a venture class in the fall at Haas. And then I'm going to teach an ethics class, which is super scary for a venture capitalist to teach ethics.
If anyone were going to do it, man. No. I mean, look, listen, you're the guy.
No,
this is great.
I'm teaching ethics is super hard. I'm teaching that at Stanford. And so I always like connecting with students and just people where like I can genuinely be helpful. And so if there are people out there where you think I can be helpful to career stuff, life stuff, random advice, as long as you're okay with me sometimes taking calls from like my car when I'm on the way to pick up my kids or things like that. I really like doing that. So yeah.
Awesome. 3 rapid fire questions, Jules.
Do it.
First one.
Ready.
Do you think nice guys finish last?
No, I don't want to say they're first because there's some people out there that have done really well and are not the nicest people in the world. But it depends like what we're trying to also like, what is the goal? Is the goal to try to be a good person and connect with people and feel like you lived your life in a meaningful way? Yeah. Then they finish first.
God damn, that's good.
Am I gonna make you cry?
So yeah, honestly, I mean, this is a little morbid. I was like, there's this thing. It's like the what are the top 5 things that people regret on their deathbed?
Yeah.
And I think about that sometimes, which is a little morbid, but it's like whatever, working back.
Totally.
If I'm gonna be super douchey about it. And you're like, who's gonna be around me on my deathbed if I'm even lucky enough to have that scenario? It's like, it's not gonna be your like banker. It's not going to be, it's going to be your family and your friends. And so, that's, it's such a good point, right? Like, what is the point of life?
Yeah.
And is it just to, totally.
I love I'm blanking on who said this quote, but I love it's not, when people die, it's not the things, you're not going to remember the things that they say, but you're going to remember how they made you feel.
Yes.
And I just feel like, can we make people feel a certain way? That's sometimes more important than what we say.
Absolutely, man. Okay, next rapid fire question is, trying to take it back to this idea of like, authentic self, vulnerability, the kind of is what's something that you believe to your core to be true about how you interact or the approach you take that you think 99% of others would probably disagree with? Like, never do that.
Oh, I don't know if I'm that like controversial. What do I believe that other people don't believe? You have more degrees of freedom around like how you act and how you behave than like you think. So I just think like you don't need to wear the costume. You don't need to play a role. You can just be yourself and bring that into your life.
I love that. That's great. This is your Oregon showing.
Oregon, yeah.
Now you're East Coast.
People from Oregon. Or I don't know if it's an amazing state, but like I genuinely think. Actually, there's one guy.
About the state of Oregon.
There's one guy I don't like from Oregon, and I don't want to call him on this podcast. He might know. Actually, he doesn't know who he is because he's usually the people that are a-holes don't know who they are.
Don't know their asshole.
But other than him,
everyone's great from Oregon.
Everyone's great from Oregon.
That's funny. Okay, last the rapid fire is what are like top 3 underrated books that you would love every reader to read or every leader to read?
Oh my goodness. I really love this book called The War for Kindness, and it's written by Jamil Zaki, who's actually he's a Stanford professor. He's another parent at the school we are. But it's all about this idea of how do you bring kindness and empathy into the world? And it's
Yeah.
bigger than tech, but I think that's awesome to.
Let's be.
What's
Nothing's bigger than tech. Let's be reasonable here. You know?
Goodness, it's different than just tech. But I love that. And then he also wrote a book called Hope for Cynics, which is his newest book.
Wow.
And it's about all the things that are actually kind of good in the world that, you know, he describes himself as a cynical person, but actually when you go deeper on things, you realize there's a lot of goodness and a lot of hope. It's sort of like you know, I know there's like now news media doing like, here are the positive stories in
Yes,
the world.
thank God for that, by the way.
And so I think it's a little bit of that. So I love that one. And then there is a book that really affected me, which I can never remember the title. It's like 20,000 weeks or 4,000 weeks, or it's however many weeks we live as humans.
Oh, yes.
And
there's like a calendar.
I wish I was 20. It's probably not 20,000 weeks. I think that's too many. But that's really helpful to think about, like, we only have a limited amount of time, and how do we use that in the right amount of way? And it's not about like time management and all this stuff. It's about how do we make time and connections and things feel longer than they are. And so I'm always trying to think about ways to like actually make time, because I don't think time is fixed. I know it does like travel every second. But it's actually like our perception of time is totally different depending on what we're doing. And so how do we have new experiences? How do we meet new people? How do we have new exciting things? So I'm really interested in kind of slowing down time.
That was great. Awesome. Thank you, Jules.
Yeah.
This is great, man.
Thanks, Healey.
I mean, this is so great.
See.